you go. Welcome. We're starting our organizational ethics series, and this series is something that has kind of been in the works for about 5 years. John and I started, Dr. Bailey, and I started working on doing a series of ethics trainings for about 4 to 5 years now. And we're primarily focused on ethics as it relates to or pertains to behavior analysts, now with the RBTs, obviously. But it became very clear to the both of us that a lot of the ethical issues that the behavior analysts were running into was as the result of the decisions that were made by organizations as opposed to themselves. And certainly, ethical dilemmas and international doesn't necessarily fit right into the code itself. And I'm really excited to be able to move forward with this. And this is kind of uncharted territory, both with for Dr. Bailey and myself. And so we're kind of, I don't want to say we're kind of, making things up as we go along. This is something that we've been thinking about a long time. I'm glad that it's starting to kind of crystallize itself. So welcome. John, do you have anything to say about a little bit about why we're here and why we decided to do this?
Well, in the beginning, the Code of Ethics was written for behavior analysts. It was a set of rules for behavior analysts to follow so that they would not engage in any unethical conduct that might cause harm to clients. And I've been involved with that really from the beginning. I first got involved with ethics when I was on the board, the original Behavior Analyst Certification Board back in 1999, and that was our plan back then, that we needed a code of ethics for behavior analysts, just like psychologists have a code of ethics. But over time, it's become clear that the behavior of the individual behavior analyst is dictated in large part by the organization that they belong to. And if that organization is putting pressure on them to engage in unethical conduct, then it's a problem. But the code doesn't really address directly the organization itself. So you've got a behavior analyst who's well-intended and ethical embedded in a company that they slowly start to figure out is engaging in unethical conduct. And more and more I'm getting those kinds of questions from behavior analysts. And so Karen and I have been discussing this, like she said, for the last 3 or 4 years, and I guess it's time to come out and really talk about this straightforwardly.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So John, just kind of moving forward, about how many ethical violations do you think are happening? The board has come up with some reported numbers. It's really low. I think it's in the hundreds, maybe not even in the thousands. And I know that you and I have talked about the number of questions that you get through the Ethics Standards Board. Now it's your company, the hotline, the ethics hotline. So can you put an estimate as to the number of ethical dilemmas you think people are facing?
Well, I'm for the last 2 years, and I can sort of project the rest of 2018 here. I've been getting about 1,000 questions a year, and I would say the number of those where I end up telling the writer, the person who's writing in, that this is an ethical violation that should be reported, I'd say it's roughly half of those cases. So it's a really high number. Now, I think what happens is many people decide that it's too much trouble, or they don't want to get involved, or they're afraid they're going to get fired, and so they don't actually file those. And I think that's why the board is reporting a much smaller number. They're not really reporting what's going on out there. They're reporting what actually ultimately gets submitted to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, some housekeeping. Go ahead and post questions if you have them. One of our moderators will select it if it's relevant to the topic in hand. And let's see, technical difficulties, call GoToWebinar directly. We'll have a 5-minute break near the halfway point, and you will receive a 30-day access to the recorded version. This training is eligible for 2 BACB ethics or type 2 CEUs. And please complete the survey after the webinar to obtain your CE certificate.